So I want to talk to you this morning about the favor of God. David is in this place, in this moment, to where, again, he finds himself kind of between a rock and a hard place, as he has many times. One thing that I've begun to find out about David, the more I read about him, is how often David was really alone. Maybe people with him, but alone. And because he was the leader. So let me say this. Not everybody maybe is going to be built to be, holding a microphone in their hand or singing or be a CEO of a company or whatever it may be. But everybody is built to be a leader. Yeah, that's right. Don't ever let somebody tell you, don't even believe that about yourself, that I'm not a leader. No, God has built you to lead somebody. It may just be your household. It may just be your children. But you were constructed and built to lead somebody. And so in some form or facet of your life, that the loneliness of leadership will be on your shoulders. And David, I looked, and David constantly had people around him, but David oftentimes was in a place that he was lonely. And so he sits in this spot now that he's a refugee in the Philistine area, in the Philistine land, yet the Philistines were his enemies because he had fought him. He had killed their Lord. He had killed their top shot. He was running as a refugee from his own land, running from Saul, who was after him, trying to kill him, and he was really just stuck. He's stuck and not knowing what to do. And David's in this place now that he's been kind of, around every area of the land and trying to find out his way, and gets in this place now that I think is kind of unfamiliar territory for him, because he did something. I taught you a few weeks ago about inquiring of the Lord. He did something and he began to try to make a decision without ever talking to God. Yeah. And so he finds himself right now in kind of an uncharted territory, because he doesn't know what move to make now that's going to carry him into the next dimension of his purpose. I know I'm built to be king. I've even got people now that have started to follow me. But now I'm stuck between a rock. I'm stuck between the Philistines that won't let me run with them. I'm stuck between Saul and Israel, who's coming after me. And I know I'm built to be king, but now I'm in a place that I don't know what decision to make that's going to get me there. Ain't nobody ever been to that place, right? I don't know what to do next. We all want to act like we got it figured out. We know what to do. I promise you there have been many days I have laid in this floor and said, God, I don't know what to do next. And I can promise you it ain't over with. I mean, I'm going to lay there many more, and I'm going to say, I'll probably get here tomorrow and I'll say, God, I don't know what to do next. But he's in this place that, God, I don't know what to do next. I don't know where to go. And out of that, he begins to attempt to connect or make a decision outside of the ordering of God, and tries to force himself in the favor of man. Come on. Jesus. See, we get in a place that we don't know what move to make sometimes, and we start to having to trying to force the next opportunity of our life. We have this issue that see, what's really dangerous is the reason God sometimes won't show you all about what he's built you to be is because you'll get impatient with it and you'll start trying to force it into place. Yes. And so David's in this place right now that, yes, he has relied on God. He's even built in the wilderness, but he's got this picture of being king that he can't get off his mind. And now, because I don't see God moving me and I don't hear God leading me, I'm going to try to make a decision to force my way into being king. And so he attempts to try to get into the favor of people around him. He's standing there with Achish, who he's developed a relationship with, because he's an exile to him. He's a refugee and hung out with him, built a relationship, a Philistine king, and yet he's still in an enemy territory, a territory that he had fought and killed literally their leader, and so he's just stuck. And now he's trying to rub shoulders with people that God had built to be his enemy, trying to force his way into a new opportunity. That's right. Trying to find favor with man. The problem that we have when we get into a place of trying to develop favor with man is that when you're pushing yourself to get into the favor of man, you're operating on only a present perspective. Because you don't like the uncomfortability of the situation. You don't like the uneasiness maybe of being alone. You don't like the uneasiness of not hearing the next door that you're supposed to walk to. You don't like the uneasiness of just not knowing. You don't like the uneasiness of not having the answers and being in control. That's right. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Anybody want to admit that we want to be people of control? Yeah. So he tries to force himself into the favor of people, but when you are trying to force yourself in the favor of people, you're operating only by limited perspective, because you're only looking at your present circumstances. That's right. That's right. Finding the favor of God puts you in the perspective of the kingdom. God is, let me tell you this, I don't care where you've been in life, where you're at right now in life, God is on your side, God is at work for you. God's main mission in your life is to see the purpose of your life lives. And so God right now, even while you're sitting here, listening to my voice, is already working out strategies far in advance of the days that you have yet to live, trying to build a place for you to run to that you can be successful in the purpose He's built in you. He is on your side and He is at work for you. And you have to keep that in your mind. We have to have a real understanding that God is at work. God cares about me. God wants to see me succeed. God wants to see me succeed far and above anybody else around me that I'm connected to. You'll find this out in a minute. I have people that will pat me on the back and will tell me they will love me right now. And then I will make a decision sometime down the day that will frustrate them and ruffle their feathers. And the same ones that wanted to pat me on the back that I was seeking the favor of will be the same ones that want to stone me when I frustrate them. But when I'm seeking their favor, it's trying to create an opportunity for only a limited perspective. God is always at work in your life. In ways that it's unmatched. Favor literally is the unmatched benefits of being in a relationship with God. Unmatched. And so for me to try to find the favor of man, even if I can get in the good graces of my brothers and sisters, what they have to offer me will never live up to what God can present to my life.
You're right.
So I'm dangerous when I'm trying to force myself into a situation with the favor of man. He's in this place. He's like, listen, I don't know where to turn. I don't know where to move. But here's the thing. I know you guys are going to war. I'm kind of stuck in the middle. Let me just tag up alongside you and I'll go to war. And you begin to see the strategy and the favor of God working in his life. Now follow me. Because had he gone to war, he would have fought against his brothers. Had he gone to war, he would have fought against the men whose influence he was trying to gain to be king.
That's right.
Would have damaged the opportunity that David, what we don't see, if you flip over in chapter on ahead in 30, you'll see that David literally is on the cusp of being crowned. He doesn't have view of it because right now he's exiled in a foreign land, not even in the territory that he will rule and reign. He's exiled to a foreign land, but is literally on the threshold of being king. Moments away. And is trying to force himself into that direction. And God is literally in the hindsight seeing everything and orchestrating and making way. While David is trying to pair up to literally fight and kill the men that he wants to lead. God works through his own enemies and says, no, you can't go to me today. So even in times that, yes, maybe we've pursued God, we've developed trust in him. We're all human. Somebody, you agree with that? Yeah. We'll all find a place that we can even be the greatest Christian or a man after God's own heart and even find moments of judgment lapse.
Yeah.
And it's the goodness of God in the moments of those judgment lapse that doesn't allow your purpose to be destroyed. Are you with me? Because David, the man that God said, here's a man that's after my own heart, a man that before he made any move, inquired of the Lord. And because he consistently inquired of the Lord and built a relationship with him is how he gained access to the favor to begin with. And God knew, here's the thing, is I realize in this moment, he's having a judgment lapse. His heart still cares about me. His pursuit still cares about me. But in this moment, he's literally confused about his constraints of his environment and had a judgment lapse. But I still desire that David is king, and I will not let him make a decision that will ruin his influence and ruin his opportunity. Because I love him, I will grant him my favor that in this moment he don't deserve. We all need some benefits of God that we don't deserve. Right? The reality is you won't touch the pinnacle of your life until you access that place with God that he grants you some things that you never earned. The Bible lets me know that it's not by works should any man boast, but it's by the grace of God. Grace and favor swim in kind of that same pool. That I got to have some access to stuff that I don't even have control over. I got to have some access to some things by God that I don't even have access to the door handle. I don't even have access to the people that I need. I don't have access to the... Matter of fact, I really tried to turn my back on them and leave them, and the favor of God kept me.
That's right. That's right.
Kept me. A little testimony about myself. I was called to ministry when I was 18 years old, between my freshman and sophomore year in college. I knew I was called. It's probably the only time that I've heard God's audible voice in my life. I promise you, man, it was clear as bell. But for 7.5 years, I ran, man. I ran. I knew who God was. I knew what God had called me to do. I knew the purpose that God had on my life. I didn't see it all, but I knew the gist of what God had for me. And yet I was trying to carry places, or God places, that he never should have been in.
That's right.
You with me? Yeah. Being up in the club begging God, don't come back right now. Don't come back right now. Involving myself in vicarious things that could have destroyed my life. Connecting me eternally with the wrong people. The wrong women. My wife needs a shout about that. She must be. Right? Because let me just show you. There ain't many people that can be married to what I do. But I sure enough did give a lot of them an opportunity, if you follow me. Not serving, not pursuing God, knowing God, believing that I had God in my life, in my heart, but not running after him and making decisions after decisions after decisions that was trying to damage the influence that I would one day need. That was trying to damage the resources. That was trying to I was allowing things in my mind. I was connecting myself with people that wanted to kill me. I literally was attaching myself to... I was giving room literally for the demonic. If you don't believe in the spiritual realm of the demonic that's trying to rob your purpose, I promise you, I was giving room to the demonic realm to try to rob. I was literally looking at the devourer and giving him an open door in my life. And because of the favor of God, I stand here today. I know what grace and mercy is about. I know what the favor of God is about, because I don't deserve to be standing here right now. I don't. And there ain't nothing I could do to work it out, but it's the favor of God. God cared more about me than I cared about myself. God cared about the purpose that was in me. He cared about the anointing that he wanted to give me. He cared about the influence that he had for me. So much so that when I tried to connect myself with the favor of man, he stopped me in my tracks and protected me. The favor of God. The favor of, if you don't know, if you're literally just in a place that you're ignorant, but you can sit back and rely on the favor of God, it will drive you to your destiny.
That's right. Come on.
That's right. Don't reach out trying to get in the favor of man. See, there's only been one voice. Let me give you a little awakening right now. Because I know you got best friends, and I know you think your family's going to be there forever, and you're going to have this job forever. And let me just tell you something. There's only been one voice that says, I will never leave you or forsake you. The danger then is that I try to find myself in the favor of man and sustaining myself with people of instability, and rather than relying on the favor of God, and the next minute they turn their back on me when I should have been looking at the one that said, I will never leave you and I will never forsake you. You need people in your life. You follow me? Connections are important. Relationships are important. But let God decide when to show them up and when to cut them off. Let God decide what door opens and what door closes. Let God decide. Throw yourself literally at the favor of God rather than trying to seek out to be in favor with men that will carry you in the battles that you never should have been in to begin with. About to go into a war, man. Literally go into a war against his own people. And trying to get into the favor of man would have carried him to a war that he was never built to fight. You with me? The favor of God. It says, no. They're angry, man. They're angry. Don't you remember he killed our leader. He's killed his thousands. 10,000. Saul's killed us thousands, and we're going after him. But we ain't about to let the man that's killed us 10,000s fight with us. God protecting him the whole time. God protecting him through the mouths of his enemy. That's how incredible the favor of God is. David trying to seek out to be connected with man. And here's the thing, is that God's favor not only begins to strategize in this moment to protect him, but then we start to see, I'm going to kind of give you a few points today. We start to see the favor of divine direction. The favor of divine direction. If you want to write some, I don't normally do the little 3 points and all, but if you want to write some down, I'm going to tell you, you write down the favor of divine direction. Because some of you right now are in a place that you don't know where to go, you don't know where to turn, you don't know how to move, you don't know what to say, you don't know who to connect to, you don't know who to run from, you don't know what to do. And you need the favor of divine direction. You're seeking out decisions for your family, you're seeking it out for your business, you're seeking it out for your ministry. Don't know where to turn, where to move, and I'm telling you right now, today, stop in your tracks. Don't try to force anything in a favorable relationship with man, and allow God's divine direction to begin to shape you. You're going to have a picture of understanding how God strategizes, because even the favor of God in his divine direction may carry you to a place that looks extremely frustrating and uncomfortable. He sends them away, says, go back, man, go back to your land. You go back and get it. We're not fighting here. You're not going with me. And it says that David returned to the land of the Philistines, and the Philistines went up to Jezreel. Now watch this. In chapter 30, it says, now it happened when David and his men came to Ziklag. Now Ziklag is the place that David really made his refugee camp. This is where all the women and the children are, all the resources. This is where they camped out at, still in the land of the Philistines, outside of his territory, of the land of Judah and all that. He's hanging out in Ziklag, and he comes back to the place of Ziklag and finds that it had been destroyed by the Amalekites. Had been destroyed. They'd taken every woman, had taken all their children, had taken all their resources, all their cattle, everything, and not only that, but they burned it up. They arrive on the scene and realize that it's been attacked, it's been destroyed, it's been burned up, and everything they got is gone. Right. But yet he'd been led there by God. Had God not begun really to strategize through the mouth of an enemy, had God not presented David favor and direction, David would have went into a battle that he was never built to fight. He would have damaged the influence that he would one day need. He would fought against God's chosen. Now here's the thing, watch. Not only that, but he would have fought against Saul, who he had repetitively over and over and over again out of honor decided never to attack. He was about to go against his own word and was about to go into a war to attack Saul, when every time before that he had a chance to kill him, he stopped out of honor. Watch, God even protected literally the seed that he was investing into the role of his kingship. Had he been in a battle that killed Saul and then been crowned, look at the seed that would have been sown in his life. But God says, you can't come with us. He uses the Philistines, say, you can't come with us, you can't fight with us. You go back, I don't trust you, I don't believe in you. I don't want you fighting with me, protecting. God literally using the voice of an enemy, protecting the whole time, because God was trying to get him back to a place of his family that was being destroyed. That's right. That's right. So he could set a plan in motion to bless David, not to harm him. That's right. Had David never been told, no, you can't come with us, had he begun to continue to seek the favor of man, he would have lost his family and his children forever. That's right. That's right. He did walk back to a place that was destitute and broken, but he walked back so God could begin to orchestrate a plan of redemption. That's right. That's right. Come on, sometimes you don't know what God wants to do in your life until you've seen what all's failed. Sometimes you can't appreciate the favor of God until you've seen destruction. That's right. That's right. He goes back, and there it was. Been taken captive. Everything burned down. Him and his men go back and begin to cry. They lift up their voices and weep because everything is gone. And here's what I mean by even the favor of man, is because he sought out the favor of the Philistines But now even the favor of his partnerships begin to turn on him. See, when they find himself in a place that they're facing destruction, not having an understanding of the mind of God and the strategy of God, they get back to a place where everything is destroyed and now they're plotting to kill their leader. And the ones that ran to him in distress in a cave, begging for his help, begging for his influence, begging for his investment, begging to raise him up into something new, now we're looking at him trying to plot how to stone him. And yet we wonder why we continue to run towards the favor of man. It says that they lifted up their voices and wept, and they had no more power to weep. They had cried all the tears. David was greatly distressed, for the people spoke of stoning him, because the soul of all the people were grieved. And when God protected David in a moment of lapse of judgment, it was to get David back to a place that he could begin to inquire of the Lord again. So where are you at when all hell breaks loose? Where do you begin to direct your questions? You with me? You blame, frustrated, justify means of wrong decisions, or do you look at the destruction around you and say, there ain't but one person that can get me out of this? I tried to get myself in a predicament that I had no business being in because I failed to inquire of the Lord. But now I'm learning my lesson. See, God's favor has kept me. I know I'm in the middle of destruction, but let me find out what God says about it. Let me get before God. I know I'm broken and I'm hurting right now, but it says that David began to strengthen himself in the Lord. Guys, I'm going to tell you, if you've never been in a place, literally, that you had nothing else to rely on but God, I'll warn you. I will warn you that if you're ever going to walk in the purpose of your life, you will find yourself there at some point, whether by decision or by force. You'll find yourself in a place that you have tried to build relationships that didn't work out. You got people that you're connected to that said they loved you, and now they want to kill you. You go back to everything that you thought you had built and find it wrecked. And now I don't know where to go. And David strengthened himself in the Lord. You need to get this. This is about the king in you. Is that when all hell is literally just come against your life, that you can sit and strengthen yourself in the Lord. Because the voices that encouraged me for a while and patted me on the back, it wasn't good enough. They left me. I can't trust them because they want to kill me. They laughing at me. They talking about me. Trying to figure out how they can leave me alone and leave me just sitting all by myself. So you know what? I'm just going to strengthen myself in the Lord. Let me give you a little insight. You're going to find out that a little bit later on, when David does become king, he makes another bad decision that gets himself in a predicament. Lives are lost, including his own little boy. And in the middle of a broken situation, David strengthened himself in the Lord. See, I know I'm going to step on church culture right now. I really I get frustrated when we rely on the fact that we can make wrong decisions. Now follow me for a minute. And just trust that God is going to cover it up without ever pursuing God to change our mind.
That's right. That's right. Say it.
Are you with me?
Yeah.
Because see, there's a difference. God's grace is sufficient in any situation. But the Bible teaches us, Paul says, shall we continue in sin that grace may abound? God forbid.
That's right. That's right.
That's what Paul said. We see a situation right here where David gets himself into a rough predicament because he does not consult God. But rather than going and allowing God to clean up his mess, he begins to get with God, to be strengthened by God. Not just to lift his head, not just to lift his emotions, but to lift his understanding. He begins to, the Bible teaches us that he strengthened himself in the Lord. And then we'll look at a few verses and it says that he began to inquire of the Lord. He allowed God to encourage him. He allowed God to influence. He allowed God to raise. He allowed God to put a smile on his face. And even before that, he didn't throw himself back into the realm of bad decisions. He then began to inquire of God, what's your mind now? Because I see where my decisions have gotten me. I need you. I'm telling you that kings will be people that know how to strengthen themselves in the Lord. Not your spouse. Not your spouse. Here's the thing, is you'll be asking, and this is where we are very dangerous in our marriages. We'll start asking for our spouse what they were never equipped to give. And so I start seeking from my spouse to strengthen me in my broken moments. And they're hurting too. You with me? Not even my best friends, my partners in business. Because see, they have an interest in it. You may not believe it, but they have an interest in it. If it's not benefiting them, they may walk away. Family becomes dangerous. Because family has their own idea for you. And what they want you to be. And where they want you to live. And what they want you to do. And so in the middle of it all, the only place I can turn to is to be strengthened by God. And the only person that can carry me to that place is myself. You with me? It's true. And begin to inquire of God. See, when you can get in that place that even in the middle of the frustration, you can see the strategy of God and allow him, it opens up the doors literally of more favor in your life. When God sees it, I know, even right now, I know that he's in a place of brokenness. He's in a place of mistake. But you know what he did? He didn't lay there. He didn't fall into depression. He didn't rely on everybody else around him to pick him up. He didn't just sulk in the situation. He didn't try to justify his means. He got in my He was not ashamed to look me in the face in the middle of his bad decisions. He was not ashamed to come boldly into the throne room of my grace, because he's going to want to come boldly in the throne room to ask for my guidance. You got to know how to get into the throne room boldly for his grace. He came into the throne room boldly for my grace, and now I can open up doors of favor in his life even more. See, remember that favor is not something that we can earn. It literally will come through this relationship with God. God says, here's the thing, is I'm going to give you permission now that you can go and attack the Amalekites for coming and trying to steal your land, trying to steal your people. You didn't ask me if you could go to war with the Philistines, right? But I protected you anyway. But now, he says, now that you're going to ask me for directions to go to war, I want to give you permission to go to war. And not only that, I'm going to give you a promise that when you enter war, I will give them to your hand and you will recover all that was stolen to you. Right. Watch the strategy of God. He says, come here and bring the ephod, man. I got to get into the presence of God. Shall I overtake them? And he says, pursue, for you surely shall overtake them without fail and recover all. And David and the men that were with him pursued. He and the 200 stayed behind. And he went after the Amalekites. Now watch. And when he had brought them down, there were spread. Oh, wait, I skipped over something. Here we go. I'm missing one somewhere. Follow me, folks. I'm sorry. Here we go. My bad. Then they found an Egyptian. They found an Egyptian in the field and brought him to David, and they gave him bread and he ate, and they let him drink water. They gave him a piece of cake and a fig and a couple of clusters of raisins, and when he had eaten, his strength came back to him, for he had eaten no bread nor drunk water for 3 days and 3 nights. And David said to him, who do you belong? He said, I'm a young man from Egypt. I'm a slave. of the Amalekite king. But when I got sick, he abandoned me. Watch. I know this ain't nothing to shout about. I'm just giving you principle this morning. David, just a few moments ago, was in a place that he was broken as well. And he strengthened himself in God. Now watch. He inquired of the Lord for direction. And God says, well, I will give you into your hand the army that you will fight against and recover it all. But in the process of that, the way you'll gain access is through somebody that's broken as well. God sends him along the path and he comes up upon an Egyptian man. Now, guys, God is working all through perceived enemies to open the doorways for David's path. God uses the mouth of a Philistine that says, no, you can't come with us today. God was protecting him through the mouth of his enemies. Now he walks him up into somebody that culture has created is an enemy. Let's move this thing to present day and talk about black or white.
That's right.
You follow me? Let's just go ahead and bring the old racism card into this thing. And when we get locked into a mindset that we can only operate by the people that we see have the same color of skin or that only live in the same place that we live, it literally will hinder the doorways that God is trying to open up in our life. When you can't open up your mind to move beyond culture's created boundaries, you literally limit the hands of God. Because God, here's the thing, is sometimes it's not even about the color. Sometimes we don't want to be around people that's got issues. And you become racist towards issues.
Come on.
Y'all, right? You don't want to rub shoulders with somebody that's funky. All right? But God says you're not walking the path to find the favor of man. You're walking the path to find favor of me. And I don't look on the outside, I look on the inside. But if you continue to look as the world looks, you will literally close my hands at the doors that I'm trying to open up for you. God walks him into a place that he encounters an Egyptian man who was broken and hurting and lonely and had been abandoned by the people that he had favor with.
That's right.
Now watch. Let me just tell you this. Before David ever asked him a question, he served him.
That's right.
Before David ever said, tell me what I can get out of you, he served him. He healed him. He blessed him. He encouraged him. See, David had been with God, encouraged himself in the Lord. When you encourage yourself in the Lord, you don't rely on encouragement for somebody else. So you can walk into dead situations, and because you've not been encouraged by environment, but you've been encouraged by the source, you can be the encouragement to the environment. Because he had encouraged himself in the Lord, he comes upon a man broken and begins to love him and serve him. Guys, let me tell you. The difference between a divine connection and just another person may lie in how you treat them. Yeah, you got to follow me here. This was the favor of a divine connection, if you want another little point. See, he had gotten divine direction. And in the direction of God, you got to have some divine connections. The problem is when we limit our picture or our perspective by what we think those divine connections should look like.
Talk about it. Come on.
God walks him into a divine connection. Looks nothing like him. Comes not from the same place that he's involved in. Is just broken, lonely, hurt, almost dead. How in the world is somebody going to open up the doorway to my kingship that's almost dead? Right? How in the world is he going to advance me to a palace when he looks like a slave?
That's right. That's right.
My God.
God says everything about the doorways of your divine connections lie in the people that you treat. Don't you remember in the New Testament that he's given a little indication about the future and the judgment? And he said, listen, he said, you're welcome to come in and receive your crown because when I was hungry, you fed me. And when I was cold and I had no clothes, you clothed me. And he said, when did I do that? He said, when you did it to the least of these, you did it to me. When you looked upon the least of these that I put in your path, it opened up a divine connection in your life life that lost you into your crown. Ah, my God. Come on. I do. I want to run. Got boots on. Guys, because we create a picture of what the path should look like. We create the picture of the people that should be the ones along the way. We limit the way that God is trying to move. And when I walk up on somebody because they look different, they act different, they talk different, they're broken. They're broke. Not just broken, they're broke. How you get me to my crown? You broke. You ain't even got your crown. How you going to get me to my crown? You don't even have your crown. God says, I didn't send them there to lead you. I sent them there to open a door for you.
Let's go.
Gatekeepers look a lot different than the priests. You follow me? But you got to have both to enter into the worship house. You got to have both to enter into the presence of God. You got to have somebody that looks like a priest, somebody that looks like a leader, but you also got to have somebody that's prepared everything about the house and somebody that's opened the doors to welcome you into the house. And if I start operating by placism and racism, I'll never see the gatekeepers that God has destined for my life. He'll walk you to an Egyptian, a slave that's been abandoned and broken, just to find out, will you treat him like a king? Because you're sowing your own seed right now. You're sowing for your own life. Gives him food. They abandoned me because I was sick. Are you going to leave me too? Watch, he asked that question a little later. He says, when I take you where you want to go, are you going to leave me too? I know there's some people like that in your life. Here's the, Jesus, help me with this, God, to communicate this right. You feel like it's okay to abandon some people because you've been abandoning yourself. But there's a difference. There's a difference to the one that has access to the inquiring of God. See, when you gain access to the throne room of God, there are some things that you're no longer permitted to do.
Come on.
You with me? There are some attitudes you're no longer permitted to have. There are some actions that you're no longer permitted to operate in. There are some decisions that you're no longer permitted to take. See, if everybody else wants to walk out and abandon, God still says you got to stand by their side. You got to love them. You got to encourage them. You got to speak into them. You got to see what's inside of them that nobody else has been able to see that's left them. I want to see how you're going to treat people because you're sowing your own future right now. And if you can sow it with honor, I'll send you people with honor. If you can sow into the distressed, I'll raise up distressed people to become your warriors.
That's right.
But it's all about how you treat people.
That's right.
This guy got a little excited because he got some raisins in a cake. He said, listen, who are you with? He said, well, we were with this crew that went down and just burned up Ziklag. Right in that moment, it's like that aha moment when you realize that God's up to something. Really? Because I've been trying to figure out how I was going to find them fools. I didn't have no direction. They come in and burn up and stole everything, and I just know I'm going to find them, but I don't know how to get there. God. When I don't know where I'm doing, I was just told to go, and I went. And God steps in and points me along the way. When I just listen to the voice of God and I'm inquiring, God just says, just go. I'll give it to you if you'll just go. I'll give you the promise, man. I'll restore everything to you and even bless you more than you ever could have imagined if you'll just go. But God, I don't know what. Don't worry. If you'll just go, my favor will carry you. I'll point you in a direction, and if you can follow that direction, there'll be some divine properties along that path, man, that will give you access to everything that you need. He says, well, I was with these folks that burned down Ziklag, and David said, can you take me to them? He said, yeah, as long as you don't abandon me. Yeah, I'll carry you to them as long as you don't abandon me. As long as you don't do to me like they did to me. Guys, watch. Look at the strategy of God even in the abandonment. Is it this? David doesn't have access to this slave unless his enemies had abandoned him. So here's the thing, is that when somebody kingdom comes on the scene, their operation must be different. You follow me? How you treat them, how you talk to them, how you serve them must be different than culture when they just swooped in and dropped them off.
That's right.
You're right.
You might have on the same attire, you may dress the same, but what's your attitude like?
That's right.
Because your attitude will determine some divine connections. Come on, you got to know, man. I'm just be honest. There's probably been moments in your life that God had appointed a divine opportunity, and you abandoned it because of an attitude.
That's right. That's right.
Or how you treated somebody. Never knowing, begging the whole time, God, show me the way. God, open up the door. And because you had literally just a constrained mind, to not have the perspective of God to see the people that he put in your path, you're frustrated because you ain't stepped back and, oh my, he's showing me so much right now. If David did not get into a place that he sat and encouraged himself in the Lord, he would not have been able to enter this opportunity with the grace that was needed to make a divine connection.
That's right.
Without sitting back in a place that he encourages himself in the Lord and inquires of God, he runs up on the same slave that had been abandoned, and he's just another man on the side of the road.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But because David was whole in the Lord, David had access to the perspective of the Lord and was able to heal this man. Says, yeah, I'll take you down to this troop. I ain't got no problem. Brought him down. There they were. God already laid them out. They out partying and drinking and having fun. Ain't even prepared to fight. God had already prepared the harvest.
God, thank you,
Guys, God has already prepared harvest in your life.
That's right. That's right.
Already. We make this thing too hard sometimes. Because the reality of it is, it's literally about obedience and principle. Favor of God, come on. The favor of God sent him on his direction. The favor of God protected him on the path. The favor of God provided divine connections. The favor of God is about to give him divine provision, and all he had to do was get in the presence of God and follow him.
That's right.
But we want to force ourselves into the favor of man, making my everyday life so much more difficult than it ever had to be. Losing out on some of the promises that God has determined for me because I'm trying to make myself into something rather than sitting back in the perspective of the king. God carries him to a place that he's already set him up. Yeah, you can go there, and not only you go there, I'll give him into your hand and you'll take back everything that you had. There they were, eating and drinking and dancing because of all. Now watch, look, this is key. Because of all the great spoil that they had taken from the land, not just of Judah, but of the Philistines as well.
That's right.
David's about to take the spoil of the people he wanted to fight with.
That's right. That's right.
You catching that?
That's right.
God's like patting his pocket. You was going to go to war with him. Ruin your influence, make connections that were going to destroy your life, become exile and an enemy to all the land, just because you're trying to make relationship with the Philistines. God says, if you'll just follow me, I'm going to up you one. I'll carry you to a place that I will give you back all your stuff, and I'll give you all the stuff of the people you want to run with. And we trying to make things happen in our life. He says, there they are with all the spoil from the Philistines, and Judah and David attacked them until the twilight, and not a man escaped except for 400 that rode on camels and fled. And David recovered all. What? All. Come on now. God is a whole God. He don't give you part of the pie. He don't cheat you. So you get around folk, you trying to find a favor with them, I'm going to take out my half before I give you your half. God says, I don't need your half because I own it all. I'll just give you the whole thing. Because the reality is you'll never be able to handle everything that I own. I'll give you all that you think you want and more than you think you want and more than you could ever need. And still have more to come after.
Come on.
All that the Amalekites had carried away. And he rescued his 2 wives. Nothing of theirs was lacking. Either small or great, sons or daughters, spoil or anything from which they had taken. He recovered all. And then David took all the flocks and the herds that they had driven before those other livestock and said, this is mine. Y'all got all yours, but this is mine. Guys, let me tell you something. I'm going to tell you what gave David access to David's spoil. It's because we don't read about anybody else strengthening himself in the Lord but David. We don't read about anybody else that inquired of God but David. There are access to the favor of provision in your life that you won't get from nobody else. It'll only be found in a place that you can retreat. When you're wanting to force your way, you retreat. When you're wanting to fight your way through, you retreat. Let me get in the presence of God and find out what he's got for me. I need God's favor on my life. So as I told you before, if you go on and continue to read, you'll realize that the very battle that David wanted to fight in with the Philistines is the very battle that Saul was killed in.
That's right.
And had David been a part of that battle, fighting for the enemy, fighting against his own people, in the moment that God had destined for his whole life to make him king, he would have ruined that moment. He would have ruined it. Guys, I don't know about you, but I need the favor of God in my life.
You have been listening to the Rejuvenate Church broadcast. If you shared in today's service with us, visit us at www.rejuvenatechurch.com and send us a message. We would love to hear from you. Rejuvenate Church invites you to be our guest if you're in the upstate of South Carolina. We are located in Anderson, South Carolina, inside the Anderson Mall across from Books A Million. Our service times are Sundays at 10:45 a.m. and Wednesdays at 7 p.m. For up-to-date information, visit our website or connect with us on social media. We are found on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Pastor Jason Wilson and Rejuvenate Church desire to bridge the gap that divides race, age, and economic status. We are transforming culture by engaging and shaping men and women through relationships and positive kingdom influences. Thank you for listening. We look forward to the opportunity to share with you again at Rejuvenate Church.